In this video, we'll be covering a guide to assessments. In the sessions of the learning management system where a cluster begins, there will be a section called Cluster Information. If you click on the file attached inside this section, you will find information related to the cluster's assessment tasks. This video will provide a summary of the information covered in this document. You should review these instructions before continuing with this video. The assessment information covered includes student information, methods of assessment, reasonable adjustment, responding to assessment tasks, assessment due dates, plagiarism and cheating, submitting completed assessments, assessment results, appeals, complaints and feedback. The first section, Student Information, provides an introduction to the assessment tool as well as a list of the units covered. VFA's assessments are designed based on the training package, which is established by industry councils funded by government. The training package provides information on the qualification, the units that make up the qualification, and the unit requirements. So this is all the information that VFA has to cover and assess when delivering that unit. Units are all the different job skills or subjects that you will cover in your course. Your course will include lots of units that come together to make up your qualification. For your course, VFA groups similar units together into blocks called clusters. The example on screen relates to a qualification that has 20 units in it. 4 of the units can be seen on screen. These units are all similar as they relate to running a safe and compliant business. VFA groups these units together into a cluster called Safe Practice. The benefit of clustering are that it simplifies the course structure, it streamlines delivery, and it reduces doubling up of assessments that can often occur when delivering units individually. For example, the Diploma of Remedial Massage contains 21 units. VFA has grouped the 21 units into 7 clusters. We feel that this will make your learning journey easier to navigate. As you gain knowledge and skills related to the course content, you will be assessed. Assessments often invoke stress and worry. Through the systems in place at VFA, as well as the support from your homeroom trainer, we believe assessments can become a positive element of your learning journey. The next information covered relates to the methods of assessment for the cluster of units. VFA use a variety of assessment methods depending upon the unit requirements. This includes written questions, project assignments and case studies, practical observations, which is where an assessor will observe you practically demonstrating your skills, reflections and placement tasks, third-party evidence, which is where a supervisor in the workplace will provide feedback on your skills and knowledge, and tests, quizzes and exams. VFA designs assessment tasks based on training package requirements, consulting with industry and the knowledge of our expert assessment developers. The next session we'll cover is reasonable adjustment. This is where your assessor makes adjustments to your assessments, considering certain barriers you might have. Let's look at an example. An assessment task in a fitness course requires a student to instruct a squat. Instructing a squat requires the following. First, explain the squat, then demonstrate the squat, instruct client performing the squat, and correct client squat technique. However, a student has a back injury that means they cannot demonstrate a squat. Their demonstration technique for all other exercises is fine. As you can see on the screen, out of the skills required, they can explain the squat, but due to their injuries, they cannot demonstrate the squat. However, they can still instruct the client performing the squat and correct client squat technique issues. Often gym instructors in the workplace are faced with this situation, especially when they're training hard themselves and they have their own injuries. This does not mean they cannot instruct exercises effectively or complete their job. In this situation, the student would have another capable student demonstrate the squat while they explain it. This is what would generally happen in the workplace if the instructor had an injury and would be seen as a reasonable adjustment. Speak to your assessor if you feel an adjustment would benefit you. Your assessor will decide whether the adjustment is possible in line with the training package requirements. CPR is an example where an adjustment could not be made if a student could not complete the assessment due to injury. This skill needs to be performed in the workplace straight away in an emergency and cannot be performed by explaining it to another person. Your assessment in the learning management system contains task instructions. Make sure you read these clearly as it describes what you are required to complete as part of this assessment. Dot points may also be included to describe what you need to cover as part of the task. If equipment and resources are required, it will also be listed here. VFA is currently adding videos to all assessment tasks. This provides further explanation on the task requirements and how to submit work. Templates or associated documents required for the assessment task will be uploaded to create easy access. You will see a rubric. This is the assessment criteria your assessor will be using. View this to ensure you are covering all task requirements. You will be set a due date for assessment tasks. Due dates are important to ensure that students do not fall behind with a backlog of assessments, which can be overwhelming. Your homeroom trainer's role is to assist you in planning your workload. If you feel that you have a special circumstance and will not be able to meet a due date, speak to your homeroom trainer. Plagiarism and cheating can come in many forms. It includes copying directly from other students, copying directly from textbooks, not referencing correctly, and copying and pasting directly from the internet. If your assessor establishes that you have been cheating or plagiarising, they will organise a time to meet with you and discuss it further. Some cases of plagiarism and cheating are more serious than others. A student may have plagiarised from a textbook without being aware of the infringement and may need more instruction on how to reference correctly, whereas another student may knowingly copy a fellow student's entire assignment to save themselves work. The second example is obviously more serious. With more serious examples, you may be referred to our discipline policy as set out in our student handbook. When submitting completed assessment tasks, there are a number of things you should check. Firstly, have you answered all questions to the best of your ability? Make sure there's no sections or questions that you've overlooked. Have you corrected all spelling and grammar mistakes? If it's a written assessment, which it often is, especially with the placement books, is it legible and easy to read? For written tasks, which is mainly the placement books, you need to make sure you put your name and signature everywhere required. Have you ensured that you have met the due date for submitting the assessment? Have you referenced correctly? And have you kept a copy of your assessment? After grading your assessment, your trainer and assessor will provide you with a result of either satisfactory or not yet satisfactory. Once you have satisfactorily completed all assessment tasks in a unit, then you can be deemed competent for that unit. Not yet competent means you haven't yet satisfactorily completed all the required assessment tasks in a unit. You can also expect to get feedback from your trainer or assessor at the end of assessment tasks. The amount of feedback will depend upon whether you've been successful or not with the assessment tasks. Obviously, if you've been unsuccessful and your assessment task is unsatisfactory, you can expect to get more feedback on what's required to make it satisfactory. Some of the feedback you will receive will relate to improvements, errors, inaccuracies, positive feedback, especially if you've done a good job with the assessment task, then suggestions to make the assessment task better. If you do not agree with an assessment decision, you've got the right to appeal it through our appeals, complaints and feedback process. The first step can be to post a comment in the assessment grading section. An example might be where you've been graded wrong for a question you think is right. You'd post a comment in there saying, "Can you please have a look at this question again? You feel that it's right." As discussed earlier in the course, you can also lodge an assessment appeal in the feedback and complaints log on the Learning Management System. If you wish to lodge an assessment appeal, you have 14 days to do so, from the date that the result was granted. We hope this video has prepared you to commence your assessment tasks. Remember that if you've got any further questions, please speak to your homeroom trainer.